All right, joining me now is a guy who I'm super familiar with, and Elk Grove and Sacramento people are as well. The pride of Elk Grove High School next to me, class of '99,
Yeah,
Lance
and Bill
Briggs,
Cartwright.
and Bill Cartwright, and several others, Jeremy
Yeah,
Calloway,
so many
Ryan
others,
Dinwiddie,
right? Jason
um,
McDonald, right?
just so many. I mean, just how's catching up with you right now in this pandemic? I mean, how are things going for you?
Well, NFL's playing, so this time of year is when I'm busiest, and kids playing sports. Kids are in school, Zoom meetings. I'm happy. You're busy. I think you're busy. You're happy.
Yeah, and being a former Chicago Bear, played with one team your whole career. How rewarding is it for you to just be still so involved with not only just that franchise, but being able to cover them from a different role and looking at them as an analyst?
It's fun. I wish I was on, working with the organization, evaluating talent and helping bring talent into the organization. But the cool thing is I analyze them, passionately, and so it's I want them to win so bad. I really want them to win so bad, and when it comes to critiquing, I have to remove some of that passion away and just see it as it's put in front of me. So it's fun. It can be it can cause a lot of tension at times. I think you can ask a lot of Bear fans. They're cussing or throwing things at the TV every week.
Yeah, I was just a passionate fan base, and it's got to be weird to be to grow up in that organization, take them to the Super Bowl, play in the Super Bowl, and then all of a sudden be in the position where you do have to offer critiques and be critical, and or else you're not doing your job. Have you found that fine line? Is it just being honest, or do you have to kind of sometimes sugarcoat some things because you don't want feelings to get hurt?
For the most part, there's less sugarcoating, especially what year 5, 6 out of the league now, and critiquing. There's a lot less sugarcoating for a lot of things. A lot of the guys that I played with are gone, and I think the only sugarcoating for me happened with the rest of the group, and that was how lucky the Bears were through those first 3 weeks. And some of the decisions that were made weren't one of the best, but they were able to find a way to still win. But it would, with an asterisk that said, if you keep making these decisions, it's going to eventually bite you in the butt. And obviously, you see all how they performed against the LA Rams Monday night. So it's one of those things. You got to roll with the punches.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and for you, I mean, I imagine it's a good transition to kind of scratch that football itch. But is it enough of it? I mean, you've been removed from the game a little while now. Is it enough of that scratch to where you don't really think about the game as being the day-to-day athlete who's preparing to take the field each weekend?
I'm way beyond wanting to take the field anymore. But it's fun in the sense that I don't know anything in this world better than I know football. And so being around it definitely gets certain juices flowing, and it just puts me in a place where I want to be, without actually being on the field. And I guess, I think you go through transitions or different phases, and in this phase, I'm able to step back without feeling like watching somebody play and feeling like I would do better or I can do better. I'd rather coach you to be better or try to give you pointers so that you can be better on the field. And that's the phase that I'm in right now.
That's awesome. I've never asked you this, but I know, having played for the Super Bowl in a Super Bowl and, having the highest pinnacle of success in the NFL, being an all-pro linebacker and being legendary with a teammate like Urlacher and even Spice Adams, who I saw you on social media with the other day. Right. Just when you compare what you did in the NFL to what you accomplished in a community that you grew up in Elk Grove and taking them as far as you did, does one versus the other, is there a football moment that eclipses any of those things, or what you accomplished in Elk Grove, is that on par with what you accomplished in the National Football League?
Well, as kids, I'd say the foundation was built in Elk Grove, and that foundation is something that I was able to carry with throughout my career. But as a kid, your interest in football, for me, my interest in football started from watching the pros, and watching Roger Craig and Jerry Rice, Bo Jackson, Marcus, all those guys, Joe, as a kid, I didn't think that I'd play at that highest level until I was a lot older. And so when you play at the highest level, the highest award you can get at that level is the Super Bowl. So I don't think that anything necessarily eclipsed what I did or what we were able to do with the Bears and going to that Super Bowl, but wouldn't have been able to get there without laying the foundation, which started in Elk Grove.
Yeah, that's well said. And I do that because we're segueing to the community stuff. You have such a huge project that you've undertook right now. And I know you had a love for comic books before. I learned more about that while you were a player, and seeing your celebrations and people asking you about it, and just knowing certain things you grew up with. But now to see you take that love and put it into a graphic novel, and some of the people you're teaming with in this story called The Trap, and how many things originated here in Sacramento that helped spawn some of these ideas. I guess very simply, what made you want to take this next step into producing this graphic novel and possibly doing things beyond just this story, The Trap?
Well, the unique thing about where this story came from, or was kind of birthed out of the idea, just sitting down with Kyle D. Higgins, who's the co-writer. He's also done Ultraman, many other projects, Nightwing, and I've always been a fan of his, and he's a fan of mine because he's an Illinois native and he's a Chicago Bear fan. But just explaining to him, kind of my situation, and what happened in order for me to make it to the pros, and it was more than just having a skill, and I was like, the chance of the first year that I was going to play football, the South Sac Vikings were suspended for 3 years. I don't feel like that was by chance. And the nearest team for me to play on my first year in 1988 was Elk Grove Knights. So my mom drove out and she said, "You're going to play football this year," and went out. I started playing football for the Elk Grove Knights. And by year 3, when the Vikings were reinstated, my mom at that point was like, "No, you've been here long enough. You're not going to go there and reintroduce yourself. They know you here, and this is where you're going to stay." These were some small decisions at the time, but they were the right decisions for me, and that was the path that I was supposed to lead. And there were things that because I commuted about an hour to Elk Grove High School, about 45 minutes to an hour to Elk Grove every day, every morning, and there were specific rules that we had in our household. There were things that we had to do, and there were certain protocols, I guess, so to speak, that we had to follow. My mom was always working, and she wanted to make sure that her kids were as safe as they could be. So, and this is something that's echoed through for so many others. There's so many others. And when I look at my youth and growing up and playing football against so many talented players, there's a lot of talent in Sacramento, and there's a lot of talent that people will never know. There are names that they'll never know of because they were dealt a different hand than I was.
Yeah, for sure. And for people who don't know, Elk Grove, like you said, South Sacramento, Elk Grove, where were some of the neighborhoods you grew up with in Sacramento? There were several, weren't there?
Man, we were all over the place.
Yeah.
When we landed in Sacramento, we landed in Meadowview. We landed in Meadowview. My mom was always moving. We moved over to, for a time period, we moved over to Power Inn and Gerber. We were on Power Inn and Gerber. We moved over to Vintage Park, which was the closest we ever got to Elk Grove. was Vintage Park, and I actually rode my bike from there to Elk Grove in the summer. That was when I had to give up baseball because it was just too much. Going straight from baseball to my bike to Elk Grove and back, it was too much. We lived on Astron Parkway right off of Florin Road, and we lived on Earhart. We literally walk from my mom's house to Valley High School.
Wow.
Those are among a few of the places that we lived, but we were all over Sacramento.
Yeah, I asked that because of the title of the trap. I had, in talking to some people, they're like, "Is he calling Elk Grove or is he calling South Sac a trap? What's I guess the definition of a trap for someone who doesn't know?"
To me, it's a resulting way of life. In my opinion, it's when your governing bodies have failed your community. And when you have to rally around someone for them to seemingly have to make it out, and which I disagree with. I think any kid that's born should have a right to success, a fair right to success. And if you're in a situation where even some of the decisions that are made for you are not made by you, in order to try to protect you and help you stay out of trouble and stay on the right path, so that you can make it out of an area or out of a community. That to me is the definition of the trap, because traps were not meant for animals to escape, but some do. And so it's something that's not, it's not designated to one area in this country. There are traps all over the country.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was wondering about that because here we are, 2020, showing a lot of things, and to go
Yeah.
for pandemic, social issues, and this kind of fits a little bit right into that in terms of the systemic issues within the country. I wonder how much people will be, doesn't matter what walk of life. Do you feel people will be able to relate to this, no matter if they come from poor situations like South Sac or even beyond that?
Well, that's one of the reasons why we made it about 200 years in the future, and we took the marginalized oppressed groups from that are from current time, and we made it the entire planet. And of course, that far in the future, there's been alien contact. There's multiple alien species, but the idea is, no matter what alien species, no matter what race, creed, gender you are, if you live on planet Earth, you are living in the trap, and that's what has happened through many different events. Unfortunate events for the planet. It's taken a bit of a turn for the worse, and they're going to have to find that they're going to have to do it together in order to make change. You have to do it together, and so it's a great story. It's fun. We're using it through a sci-fi lens. So I view it more as a cool adventure, a unique adventure. And to add to this, I wanted to home base, or this first arc, I wanted it to be in Sacramento. We went back and forth on how we wanted to open this book. And if you see the cover, the cover has the John Hancock building on it with the L train right there. I got overruled on this one because there's more landmarks in Chicago. So visually, it was an easier story to tell.
No, it totally makes sense. And, along those lines too, I feel like this is the springboard for something, for maybe other stuff to come. You have a graphic novel with the trap, and then I would imagine you're looking at things beyond the horizon in terms of what you can produce in the future.
Absolutely. I mean, this is just one small arc to an entire world that we have built out. And if it, hopefully if this is well received, we'll continue to put a lot more out. And beyond that, I'm really into creating stories like this, just using imagination and coming up with wonderful ideas and things that can connect with people and people can get on board with. I think people get on board with the character, and from that character, they want to see what happens, and they look forward to it. They want to laugh, they want to cry, they want to do all kinds of things. I know that's the way I've always been with with characters and stories.
I know I'm fortunate enough to talk to you at a time where the Kickstarter is coming to an end. Fortunately, you guys got the support you were looking for. What does that mean to see the idea come to fruition in a year that's got so many troubles going on, but you still see the support for this idea, and it's almost coming to life?
We launched this thing in the middle of an election year, all right before the peak of the election year. Shoot. The ballots got to go out in a couple of days. So I think I'm just grateful, and I'm really happy for all the support and those, because there's a lot of things going on. There's, I know everybody's minds are going in a lot of different directions. There's a pandemic, the election, and so many decisions that have to be made based off of the decisions that we have to make right now. And with that all being said, we were still able to reach our goal and continue pushing. So I think that it really means that people believe in what we're doing. And I'm excited. I'm super excited to complete the story and get it all out to everybody.
I want to hit that one more time, because it's the story itself, so many of your personal experiences go into it. But there's also the element of science fiction as well. How much of that is my experience versus fiction?
Oh, a lot of fiction. It's inspired more so by my upbringing and my experience, my peers' experience, my family's experience, and what I know. It's from that. There are situations that are definitely inspired by the things that I know, but in a lot of ways, there are just new ways. I mean, we have a sport, it's called surf riding, and it's like riding a surfboard, but being able to defy all gravity, scale walls, propel through water at high speeds, doing tricks, and you have different aliens, you have different powers, you have people that are all over the place. I mean, it's closer to maybe like a casino night at Star Wars, and just one of those big melting pots. So there's really a lot going on. There's a really deep story, and I think it'd be a heck of a ride.
And for any kid who's gone through some maybe experience the living conditions that you've gone through, multiple locations within the city, what kind of advice do you have for them in escaping something like that?
I think the best thing that I can remember growing up is just always stay positive. We were always positive. We always found something. I know nowadays we have phones that have everything that you want on them. Back then, when I was growing up, we didn't have that. We had to be a lot more creative, with what we did. And between me, my sisters, all the kids in the neighborhood, we would find some way to have a lot of fun. We were always outside. We were always playing until the lights came on. So I'd say stay positive. And if you want something, you have to be willing to do what it takes to get there, because everybody loves the glory, but nobody wants to know the story. So and the story is what gets you the glory.
Yeah, and final couple for you before I let you get out of here. I can't let you go because we're talking about this being a graphic novel, your love for comic books, that's what kind of inspires it. But when you're growing up, what were the comic books that inspired you? Do you kind of steal from any of those?
I mean, all of it inspired me, of course. I'm pretty sure the first comic I picked up was probably an X-Men, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, Batman. I was a big Silver Surfer fan, so the only way you could really find Silver Surfer was, in Fantastic Four comics. I was heavy into the Punisher and learned about so many characters through the Punisher because he was such a cool character growing up. And it just really spawned into more and more. I got heavy into Image comics when Image came out too. So I'm a true comic book nerd, and I would stack up my books and travel with them and read them all.
It's not that uncommon. Like, it's funny because you would think it would be uncommon among athletes, but it's really not that uncommon. It seems like there's always one on each team that I've ever covered that just absolutely is insanely passionate about comic books.
It's true. Hard to find though. You know, I mean, you say there's one on each team. If you're talking college, that's 130 teams. It's one of those things too where I got made fun of a bit when I was a kid. Like my big brother would make fun of me, and so I really kept it to myself. Unless someone mentioned it, I assumed you didn't like it. And if I'm in conversation with my buddies and no one brings up a comic book at all the whole day, I'm pretty sure none of you guys like comics.
Well, that's a different type of love right there, right?
Right.
That's awesome. I can't thank you enough. The book is called The Trap, the graphic novel. Do we have a release date? If someone wants more information, what are we going to do?
So now that it's ended, we're talking probably going to be about a year, 12, 14 months before it'll be in in your hands. So awesome. Stay tuned. We got work to do. And again, I appreciate all the support. And hopefully this is going to be well received.
I can't thank you enough. I'm going to look for my signed copy. And I'm going to pick one up and send it to you or something. And
all right.
Yeah,
I got you covered.
Yeah, I got you. And then, I'm always looking for any excuse to talk to you. So if you have anything in the future, please let me know.
You got it, brother.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you, Lance.
All right.